G'day guys, Tillis20 here and welcome back to Marble Mountain. Today we're going to be working on a suburb that's going to be surrounding the toll booth that we built in the last episode. This is the first suburb that you would encounter coming into Montana, and it's probably one of the nicest neighborhoods we've built in this city, so yeah, I really love the way that this place turned out. If I was going to have a house so far in Montana, it'd probably be around here. We add a lot to the city, so look forward to the cinematics because it really showcases everything that we do. Now, before I get into what this episode, the bulk of this episode is about, I'm doing something a little bit different. Now, this is another one of my crazy ideas that I tend to come up with, and the idea is to create some radio stations in Marble Mountain. Now, these aren't stations I've created. I've got my patrons to get the ball rolling, and they've come up with about 5 different stations. I've also put the question out to Discord, and I've got a couple more stations coming in. What I will be doing over the next couple of minutes is building a couple of the stations within Marble Mountain. So right now you just saw me build Jazz Lab, which is a radio station playing jazz music. We also have this alternative rock station, which is run by uni students at Montana University. Currently it's unnamed, so if you've got some ideas, definitely shoot them through. We're also going to be working on Loud radio station playing hip hop and R&B, and it's located in a real rough neighborhood of Montana. For this next radio station, it's out in the deserts, like right out in the middle of nowhere, at least for the time being until we get a little bit more around this area. But this is a country music station called CBC. And then just outside of the deserts, actually just outside of Montana, we're going to be working on a radio station called Times Square. This is currently my favorite radio station, and this is run by a conspiracy theory nut job who pretty much runs it out of his house. Is a little bit unhinged, so you can kind of imagine the type of station that is. Can you kind of see where we're going with this? What I would like is more stations. Like at the moment we've got 5 or so. I would love a lot more. So if you have any ideas for radio stations for Marble Mountain, like not just for the city, but for the whole region of Marble Mountain, please hit me up. I would really love some more. And I don't really want it to stop at just ideas for stations or even locations for stations. So Marble Mountain actually has a wiki page which is very comprehensive. It's totally fan run. I shoot them through maps of Marble Mountain and ideas and images sometimes, but really it's run by people who are watching the channel, watching the series, and adding all these backstories to the places in Marble Mountain. Now, we're starting to get to a point in Marble Mountain where the city is it feels like a city now, and particularly over the next couple of episodes, it's really going to develop. And Marble Mountain as a region is starting to come together. So I would really love that wiki page to become just something that is really comprehensive, totally fan run, and actually has a bit more input within what I am also doing. These radio stations, I would love the radio stations to be on the wiki page, and I would really love to know the sort of people who are running these stations, like who are the DJs. I would love to know what sort of music they're playing, or what artists have played, or where even people live. Like maybe they live in this town that we're developing in this episode, like who knows. I also don't want to stop there, so this is where I need your help. I could probably do this by myself, but I actually would really love to get your input on this. I think this would be so much fun. And so, okay, the idea is, and I'm laughing because it's ridiculous, but I think it's going to be awesome. Now that the city's really starting to develop, and now that Marble Mountain's really developed, I want to do some more cinematic overviews where it's just a vehicle traveling through Marble Mountain, or maybe the tram going from one point to another point, or a car trip or whatever. Like, just I want more cinematic videos now that we're a little bit more established. And for the music, I want it to be the stations playing. I want it to be Marble Mountain stations playing, and cycling through the radio stations, and every now and again you get a couple of ads for different places in Marble Mountain. So it might be an ad for the car dealership, which is on a particular road in Marble Mountain, or maybe it's an ad for a TV show that's at a station in Marble Mountain. Like, who knows? It could just be, it's basically whatever you guys think. Also, news flash, like it could be like a news flash where it's talking about some things that are happening in Marble Mountain. Like maybe it's the opening of the Bay Bridge or whatever. because obviously we're working on that in this episode. Also the music, the DJs, like I'd also love that it'd be the DJs talking, introducing the next song, and you know. Do you get where I'm going with this? What I would like you guys to do is, I would love 20 seconds, 10 seconds, just a little snippet of audio from you guys. It doesn't have to be high quality. All I really want you to do is record a voice memo in your phone, email it to me, because I think that'll be the easiest way, but I really don't care how you get that audio to me. There are when you press share after doing a voice memo, I think email is the easiest option. I'll leave my email address in the description below. Email it to me, I'll add all the music, all the sound effects, don't add anything extra because I can do all that. And then it might be featured in one of the cinematic videos in the future. That's the idea. I think it'd be really cool, and I think we can get really deep with this and create some really cool stories. So, for instance, something that I was thinking of is, you could have a whole backstory of Radio Mike, who's the DJ at Jazz Lab, and maybe has a mansion in this suburb that I'm building in this episode. And then you could write all about him on the Wiki page. Or you could take someone else's idea and from the Wiki page and do an ad on it. Or maybe even if you saw me place down a car dealership, then you could, advertise that car dealership. It's totally up to you guys, and I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with. Please come up with something. I'd hate for all the ads and all the DJs to sound like me. I think that'd be really lame. It'd be awesome to get like a great collaboration between us all, especially getting people into the videos. I think that'd be so much fun. More information in the description below. Honestly, just a very simple voice memo on your phone and email it to me. I think that's the easiest option to do it, because email, I think you can attach it really easily. Otherwise, Twitter, anywhere, just you can DM me your files and I'll save them. Try to make sure they fit in with a story of Marble Mountain. I'd hate it to be like conflicting or doesn't match up with the wiki. If you do add anything on the wiki, just jump onto the Discord server. We have a chat group that is basically dedicated to people who are adding things to the wiki and adding bits and pieces and stories. So that's your best place to add anything there. And it'd also be a good place to add some radio station ideas, so that we're just not overlapping. It's all working and collaborating beautifully. That's my idea. It's crazy. I tend to do lots of crazy things like this in my videos. That was a very long-winded explanation. I didn't expect it to go that long, but I guess a lot needed to be said. Thanks for sticking around if you're still listening to this right now. Okay, on to the episodes. So, what I have been doing so far is that Bay Bridge. You might have noticed that I ended up dragging a railway line underneath it. That line is purely for cargo, and that's going to be serving cargo entering and leaving Montana via the port. And that's also going to be connected up to the main bulk of the cargo line. No passenger trains are going to be traveling along there. I'm just going to keep that as cargo. I think it's going to look really cool, and I think it makes a lot of sense to have something like that so close to the port as well. Something else that I have been working on is this interchange, because I ended up deciding to build a little bit more of a substantial neighborhood in this area. At first it was going to be mostly nature and a couple of parks, and that was about it, and maybe like a small suburb. I've decided to go for a little bit more like a much larger suburb, but still trying to keep it a little bit more low-key compared to the rest of Montana. Again, this is like a really nice area to live, right next to the beach, and also quite close to the downtown, although we are a little bit far away from the downtown. And I guess being close to the port, like maybe there's some areas around here that aren't quite as crash up. There are still quite a lot of naturey areas, so this headland I end up creating into a real nature park, and taking like lots of inspiration for some of the headlands around California too, just with the way that the mountains interact with the water. I think it's really quite interesting, and it's really different to the way that mountains are around Australia, because we don't really have these sort of coastlines. All our coastlines are usually quite flat, and Yeah, I think our headlands are really different. But I think that this works really nicely, particularly because I wanted there to be a few more areas in Montana that was pretty much dedicated to national parks. I don't really know what they call them overseas, but in Australia we call parklands, that is pretty much just wild nature, we call them national parks. I'm sure it's probably the same name all the way around the world. Something from the last episode, people were saying that it's kind of strange having a science center so close to the city, and also so close to what would be quite a busy area, being the toll booth. Yeah, I think that's a totally valid point. I think it would be a terrible spot. We actually have an observatory next to our harbour bridge in Sydney, and you can go there now, and it's like a museum, and you can still stargaze through using the telescope, but it's like not that great. If you want to get a good telescope, you need to go right out of the city. I think that's what this science center is mostly for. It's more of a museum than it is an observatory. I'm going to leave it there mostly because I think it fits in nicely, but I don't think it would be the best place to stargaze. There is the vanilla asset for I think it came with the original game with no expansion packs or anything like that. I'm probably going to put that observatory out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. I think that'll work really nicely. So this suburb is called Callaway Beach. This is a suburb that is right on the beach. This is the first beachside neighborhood that we've created in Marble Mountain. And I think what I was going for is I wanted it to be a little bit touristy, but probably there's going to be other beaches around Montana that'll be more touristic than this one. This is probably a little bit more of a hidden gem. Maybe not a hidden gem, but more of like I don't know, it's less established for tourists and more for people who live around this area. That doesn't mean that there aren't any hotels. There are a couple of hotels that are around here, and you did see me place down a couple of nightclubs. So it still is like a bit of a nightlife place, but it's probably less of a nightlife area than other areas in Montana, if that makes sense. And I didn't really want to go to too much detail in this area, so like, you'll see huge amounts of imperfections in that design, and mostly because I really just wanted to expand this area. I don't want to get too fussed about some areas of detail. I would really just like to focus on developing areas out rather than, focusing on every little inch of thing that I place down and trying to make sure it actually has super detail. Some areas obviously do, but other areas do not. I really love this suburb that sprawls across this headlands on this mountain range. I wanted it to be a bit more of a mix of the buildings, mostly going for mansions, because I think that this will be a really nice place to live. Again, if I was going to live in Marble Mountain, so far this is the place I want to live in. By the way, let me know where you would like to live in Marble Mountain, whether it's in Montana or if it's in a greater region, maybe even that suburb that I placed down that was built in a competition. That would also be a really cool place to live. But yeah, this place is super nice. It's got like beach access. It's also got some really nice big houses, and there's also a bit of nature, and you can actually see some really great views from up atop here, which you'll see in the cinematics. I'm also really mindful that we might have like a few parklands, but overall in Montana, not a huge amount. So every time I build a suburb, I always make sure I build some sort of custom park, which is what I'm doing here. I wanted this area to be a little bit embedded within the headlands and within the contours of the lands, but at the same time, I did want there to be some playing fields that were a little bit more flat, so that, obviously you don't want to be playing on a mountain when you're kicking around a soccer ball. But yeah, I think I was watching Prez's last episode of Columbia City, and he was saying that it's really tricky working with mountains, which I 100% agree with, and but I'm sure he's loving it. It's like a love-hate relationship when it comes to working with like a crazy terrain. I think the end result always looks really cool, and it's very rewarding when you do get a great look for a city. I actually hate working with like a flat area, so I tend to usually work with a mountainous type of city. In fact, just a little sneak peek into what I will be doing for my next series, that will also be quite a mountainous city. Just a little hint there. By the way, that new series is still very, very close. The teaser has already finished. I've already recorded the teaser, and it's actually already up on YouTube. Just by the way, it's ready to be watched. I just have it on private. I would like to record a couple of episodes before I release that, and then it's away. And just another little sneak into that series, I have actually already built probably the first 5 episodes. I just need to record the commentary and all the extra stuff because it's a little bit more of a complicated series rather than something that I'm doing in Marble Mountain. I'm so damn excited to show you this new series. I'm doing such a good job at just keeping it low key, by the way. But it is so close. I plan to release it within the next couple of weeks. So this Headlands, I'm so happy with how it turned out. I am definitely not as skilled as Fluxtrans when it comes to terraforming, and particularly when it comes to mountains. He really does an incredible job, and I think it comes down to patience because he has just a huge amount of patience when it comes to terraforming. His ridges as well, I think, are really quite amazing, the way he creates ridges and valleys. And I was actually using his tutorial a lot, the one that he did for, he's done a couple for the City Skylines YouTube channel. I was watching a few of them to get some ideas, and patience is really the key when it comes to terraforming, particularly when it comes to mountains. I also wanted the roads and the suburbs to flow with the contours of this headland too, and I was trying really hard not to go overboard with the trees because this is not a foresty area. This is a sort of area that is more shrubs, more low bushland, and a lot of it isn't even covered in trees. A lot of it is actually just grassland. And to achieve to make this look bigger than it really is, because it's actually not a very big headland, believe it or not. It's tiny compared to the size of Marble Mountain. But to give the effect of making it look bigger, you just use smaller trees, and that works really, really well. But also just working around the shoreline to create some more beaches. Again, not going into huge amounts of detail, just trying to create a couple of little hidden beaches, and they're the sort of beaches that you can only get to if you walk along these paths going across the mountain. I don't plan to have a road going across the whole mountain, the whole headland. I think it looks nice if it's left a little bit more of a national park and a bit more secluded. So I think those beaches would be really nice to get to. But I didn't really do too much work in terms of the national park. I just did a couple of paths and that was about it. Now we're working on the beachfront for Callaway Beach. I think it was really tricky to, again, working with how steep the gradient was compared to, the difference between the ocean and where the beach is and then where the houses sit is a huge, huge difference. So, and I didn't realize that until I started working in this area. So I had to really think about how what the landscape was going to look like, and I couldn't really have any road connections going down to the beach because the gradient was far too crazy. So instead I ended up placing the car park halfway between where the shops are and where the beach is, in its own little park area. And I guess if you are accessing this beach, you would park in this car park and then walk down some stairs to get to the beach, which isn't very uncommon. I grew up around the beaches in Sydney, and quite often our headlands, our beaches would be not you'd have to access them via stairs or via something that was not directly onto the water. So this kind of creates a little bit more of a secluded beach feel to it. It's not exactly and I think that's probably why it's not as touristic as the other beaches I plan to build in Montana. So these houses that sit right on the coastline, I think they'd be beautiful. They are a little bit close together, but they really just look out over onto Callaway Beach. out onto the ocean. They have this boardwalk as well. By the way, this boardwalk connects all the way around the Bay Bridge and goes underneath the Bay Bridge and connects up to where the Science Center is. So it's a really nice bike path. Yeah, you will actually see people using it too, because I made sure that I created this into a whole custom parkland because I really wanted to see people accessing these roads, and it just looks so cool. By the way, I'm actually working really hard to make sure that all my suburbs and everything in Marble Mountain in Montana is named. Particularly the suburbs, I really want there to be like very particular stories and characteristics for each suburb. I don't want there just to be like suburbs or districts built just for the sake of it. I want everything to feel and have some sort of story and atmosphere to it, and I think that comes from you guys. I don't really have the time to build all this detail. I love building the houses and the suburbs and thinking of what they could be like, but all that story comes from you guys. So again, Wiki would love to see more action on there, and I also plan to embed a lot more of the Wiki within what I'm doing, especially in the cinematics. Oh man, just looking at the time, I've got like 30 seconds and there's a whole bunch of things that I forgot to talk about. So sorry if you're one of those people that only watch the first 30 seconds of my videos because you just missed out on all this information. The next episode, the next 2 episodes, I'm going to be focusing on the light rail system, and man, it's going to be such a good couple of episodes, so really look forward to that. I've got some really cool things in mind. And also a big thanks to everyone who contributed to the poll whether or not I should build a airport in Marble Mountain. It was a very overwhelming yes. People want to see a custom airport in Marble Mountain, which, to be honest, I am kind of happy for. It's a while until we work on that airport. We need to figure out a location for it first. I have an idea of where I think we should put it. I think we should put it on the other side of the Bay Bridge, not on the Montana side, but on the other side. But in the comments below, let me know, because I think you guys probably have a good idea as well. Alright, we're out of time. Guys, thank you for watching this video. A lot of information in not a lot of time. If you've enjoyed it, please leave me some nice feedback in whatever fashion you prefer to, or in all of them if you would like to. But until next episode, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.